Hello and welcome to Comic Sex Games 2021. I'm Len, the Executive Director of Hand-Eye Society, an arts and video game organization that focuses on serving the game curious. We're located in Toronto, the place in the water where the trees are standing, and occupy the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Toronto is now home to many other Indigenous peoples, as well as both welcome and unwelcomed guests. Comic Sex Games is a celebration not only of video games and comics, but also the intersections and cross-collaborations of different artists, developers, and creators in between. We're so excited to announce 5 games that were made in collaboration between games and comics artists for our Comic Sex Game Jam. Bell Book Subscribe, B-Sides, The Faceless City, Farewell Format, and Miss You Love. Check them out alongside the exhibitors throughout the week. Thank you so much for joining us for this event. I want to thank everyone who's been involved in the project over the past 5 months, as well as our fantastic moderators and volunteers. You can learn more about Hand-Eye Society by following us on Twitter at Hand-Eye Society, as well as subscribing to our newsletter. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the show, and I'll see you at the end of it.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Amanda Wong, and I am the Director of Partnerships and Fund Development at the Hand-Eye Society. I would like to thank Ontario Creates for making Comic Sex Games a reality, especially for the support in making our event online amidst this pandemic. I'd also like to thank our studio sponsors for contributing to the return of the Comic Sex Games Jam this year. Viewers will have a chance to see what some of these studios have been up to throughout the stream. Please go check out Clever Endeavor, Phantom Compass, Flowweaver, and Laundry Bear Games when you have a chance. Lastly, I want to give our team a huge shout out for making Comic Sex Games happen online, along with the support of our volunteers and volunteer coordinators, Anna Kim and Sam Cuddy. Please enjoy the stream.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Sparks, Director of Technology at the Hand-Eye Society and Production Coordinator of the online platform that currently hosts TCAF, Canzine, and Comic Sex Games for this online Super Festival. Thank you for coming to this online event that my colleagues and I spent so much time putting together. I won't take up too much more of your time, but we'll be running Comic Sex Games events featuring many speakers and games every day this week. Be sure to follow us on Twitch to be alerted when we go live, and you can find out more about the Hand-Eye Society at handeyeSociety.com. You can also attend this online festival at the link below, which is brokenpencil.com/TCAF, to see TCAF, Canzine, and Comic Sex Games exhibitors and jammers. Don't forget that this event goes from May 8th to May 15th, so keep an eye on us. A huge thank you to everybody who's been involved in this project, including our participants, our team, and our sponsors. As well, thank you for being our supporters. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to my team, including Len Predko, Brendan Lehman, Amanda Wong, Royale Edwards, Aaron Demeter, Phil Slyhoff, and Jillian Bleckenhorst, who all played a part in making this possible. Well, that's enough for me. Let's get our game on, and I hope you enjoy Comic Sex Games.
Hi everyone, my name is Leanne Ireland. I'm the Executive Director at the Urban Society for Aboriginal Youth, or more commonly known as USAY. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about Indigenous storytelling and virtual reality, but also gaming in general. I think it's important to first start with a land acknowledgement. So USAY is situated in the traditional lands of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Nakota, and Tsuut'ina nations, as well as Métis Nation Region 3, which is more commonly known as Treaty 7, which is here near Calgary in southern Alberta. I think it's really important to understand what USAY is and what it is that we do. So I'm going to show you a corporate video that sort of sums it up better than I could on my own. The Urban Society for Aboriginal Youth, or USAY, is an Indigenous-led organization that supports Indigenous youth living in the city of Calgary that are between the ages of 12 and 29 years old. We really focus on building strength-based programming and activities that support decolonization journeys. We recognize that there are unique and complex barriers facing our people. However, since 2000, USAY's focused on our people's strengths, abilities, and resiliency as we move away from oppressive, systemic, and colonial practices. As Indigenous people, we're ultimately on a journey towards decolonization. Each year, USAY operates over 30 different programs that support decolonization efforts in our community. USAY's diverse programming focuses on helping Indigenous youth achieve 3 long-term outcomes in our community, including social inclusion, healing, and successful transitions to adulthood. We know that decolonization sounds like a heavy and daunting task. However, our programs are fun and engaging and have young people involved in activities that they enjoy and want to be part of, while also upholding a traditional Indigenous value and worldview. Throughout USAY's programming, we acknowledge that we're on Treaty 7 land, but support all those that make this sacred land their home. USAY connects Indigenous youth with programs and activities that embrace art and technology. Our diverse activities range from creating superhero action figures, virtual reality, interactive magazines, and murals using augmented reality. Our after-school programming has more than 50 Indigenous youth attending each week. At the same time, our lunch programs support Indigenous youth in finding a sense of belonging in their schools. The overall goal of our programs is to encourage, empower, and support Indigenous youth to navigate their own pathways towards success. Throughout our history, we've seen that Indigenous youth understand their own strengths and abilities, and USAID is not in the role of doer, but rather helper. We've also seen that by focusing on the diversity, strength, and vibrancy of our people, we can reduce barriers and support their overall success. Part of our work also includes collaborating with other organizations to help them recognize, address, and challenge social justice issues facing our community. There are long-standing systemic barriers to overcome, and collaborative efforts can create change for future generations. Our passionate, tireless team of Indigenous staff and board members continuously cultivate relationships with youth and the community to support them on their cultural and personal journeys towards success. To continue our work, USAID partners with local donors, sponsors, and funders. At USAID, we're open to having conversations, creating dialogue, and working toward reconciliation. Contact us to learn more about becoming involved in nurturing self-empowerment and fostering healthy collaboration and communication for Calgary's Indigenous youth.
So that's a little bit about our organization, and it gives you sort of a context into what it is that we are trying to achieve at USAID and why we're involved in AR and VR projects. So why VR at all? One of the stories I always like to tell is that we took a group of Indigenous youth to a VR arcade, and they played for about 15-20 minutes each, and they were totally into it, obsessed with it, loved it so much. And one of the youth mentioned at the end of it that we should create an educational Indigenous VR game. And we thought that was such an interesting idea. We'd never thought about the ability to do that type of work. So we started exploring the idea of virtual reality and storytelling. We had been completing lots of other projects that were immersive in terms of Indigenous storytelling, like graphic novels, comics, obviously artwork. We have magazines and things like that. But how could we tell those stories in a way that was interactive and in a gaming setting? So when we started to explore VR, we realized that it's sort of a new frontier for authentic Indigenous storytelling. It's this decolonized space that exists that allows for people to embrace what we like to call bicultural enculturation, which is just a high-tech word of saying, we know that Indigenous youth both want to embrace their traditional Indigenous heritage and identity, as well as their sort of youthful Canadian identity. That is, you can both be Indigenous and practice who you are as a traditional Indigenous person, but also you like things like VR and graphic novels and fun things like that. So there's this engagement among Indigenous youth in both activities that could be Indigenous and traditional in nature, but also fun and interactive and a gaming experience. So we love that about VR. We also know that immersive experiences create long-term engagement, and it has a really interesting way of getting a high impact engagement that allows for complementary conversations to happen. So, you know, when you talk to youth about exploring VR and putting on a headset and going in and talking about homelessness, and then you can have a larger conversation about housing strategies and identity and overcoming barriers that they might be experiencing, which is a really interesting way to say that you get them sort of interested in the conversation and you ease them into this really dynamic and innovative experience. We also like the alignment of Indigenous storytelling with the sort of non-linear storytelling that's available in VR and in AR and also in graphic novels. Sort of this non-linear way of capturing a story is very much in alignment with how Indigenous people and elders often teach lessons or stories or content. You know, this is a juxtaposition to sort of this idea that Indigenous people are simply like in the past or are traditional. There was initially some hesitancy from elders to engage in this process, but seeing the reaction that youth had to VR and storytelling in this way, it really transformed how they saw it and they wanted to become more involved. So one of the issues that we had right away was how do we overcome the barrier of having like PCs, phones, and other challenges and not being able to access VR headsets? And we really embraced the idea of the Oculus Go and the Oculus Quest, which you can download content onto and then make it available to a large variety of audiences through community events and lending libraries and things like that. To date, USAE has more than 60 headsets available to the community, and we have classroom sets that we give out to the community, as well as we have a clean box technology where we can sterilize all the headsets so that there's less of a concern about COVID and things like that. So we really sort of utilized VR in a way that meets what we're trying to gather as Indigenous people and through Indigenous storytelling. So Indigenous traditional stories meet technology. So how do you capture Indigenous traditional stories in technology? So we had a process of involving Indigenous people from the beginning. So the idea of creating graphic novels or VR or AR all started with projects that we were already doing in our agency. And so Indigenous youth were involved in the beginning in understanding that these programs and ideas and stories and concepts were already successful, which really helped us shift them and mobilize them into the VR or XR world. And with that, we opened all of our projects with a blessing ceremony. We involved ceremony right from the beginning. We ensured that we followed proper protocol. So we had an elder come in, do a blessing and a prayer, and start everybody off in a good way. And then throughout, we had a process of reiteration, circles, and conversations. And then at the end of each of our projects, we also include a closing prayer so that we sort of bookend everything really nicely in a traditional protocol that aligns with our ways of thinking and our ways of knowing in the contents of storytelling and sharing. There's an idea that Indigenous people and technology aren't necessarily a natural fit, but for us, we were really able to involve Indigenous people in tons of different ways in terms of the technology from, like I said, the opening prayer to protocol to artists, musicians, voiceover actors, content creation. So we really were trying to involve as many Indigenous people and their stories, ideas, and concepts into all of our applications. So it wasn't just about the technology, it was also about capturing all of those wonderful and rich, authentic stories. So how we got started. So our first project was based on our graphic novel, Thunder, Kikitsakun. And it had artwork from Indigenous young artists who told a traditional story told to us by Sikokatu. And he told us the story of the Thunder Pipe ceremony. And it was a really amazing story that I thought very amazingly captured in a graphic novel, which became an animation and then a play that the students did in the classroom. And because of its just insane popularity, USAE really felt like it was a great story to turn into our first virtual reality game. And we involved elders, youth, Indigenous protocols, processes, and we knew that we needed to honor and respect the original process that was provided to us in that original story from Sikokatu in the Blackfoot graphic novel, but also into our virtual reality game. And so the intention of the Thunder VR game is to be a Blackfoot language learning tool. And so we had a lot of ideas about how to make that happen. So, there's a certain nature to Indigenous languages, and there's an endangered component to it as well. And it was important to ensure that that Indigenous language was speaking to the culture in a really significant way. And we needed to understand how to work with a fluent Blackfoot speaker also making it relevant to beginner language learners, and to make sure that the gameplay itself wasn't confusing or lost in the language learning concept. So in initial prototypes, much of the Blackfoot language was in there, and players were getting lost in the gameplay. And so we realized that we really had to understand the scale and base language learning of the audiences that we were targeting. And that was youth who were at a very beginner level. And so we were able to sort of adjust our plan and make sure that it met their needs. We also wanted to make sure that the game itself was fun. So how do you take a traditional language and a traditional idea and actually make fun gameplay? So what we really focused on is like cool game mechanics, really interesting aesthetics, and really getting the essential story laid out really concisely to make sure that the project made sense in the end and the narrative was clear. But it was also fun, and in the game, much of it is with shooting a bow and arrow, and it's a really fun and interesting way. That being said, we should check out the trailer.
Okay, my name is San Hokuntu. I want to share a story with you, which is called Thunder, that has been with my people for thousands of years.
So as you can see, we created this really cool 4-level game, which is really interesting. From there, we moved on to Asanapi, which is writing on stone. This is this idea came from our so we have an existing overnight trip at Writing on Stone, which is a UNESCO heritage site in Alberta. It's a beautiful location. And at this overnight trip, there's just this palpable magic and spiritual essence there that was really powerful and amazing. And we wanted to capture that through a spiritual tour of Writing on Stone. And we were able to work with Randy Bottle, who was an elder. That allowed us to have restricted access to parts of the park that wouldn't normally be there. And then we also have the involvement of Eugene Braverock, who plays Noppy in Wonder Woman, and he did the narration, which turned out absolutely amazing. And then we were so lucky to have Walter White Bear McDonald create a unique and custom score for the project. So all the music you hear is from Walter White Bear McDonald, who did this amazing score for the project. And this is available. It's a 360 video. It's available on the Oculus Go, but it's also available if you'd like to see it on YouTube, which is really cool. So let's watch that trailer.
The ancestors knew where to look. Look for signs that will give them direction.
For thousands of years, the Blackfoot people and other nations came to this sacred place. It is believed this place connects the physical world with the spirit one. There are few who still know their secrets.
Essanay is a beautiful place to be.
So yeah, so Writing on Stone was this amazing process of working with elders to understand what was powerful about that location. and to really figure out what the story was that we wanted to share. So many people are moved and emotional at the end of the experience because it's so powerful, and really talks about what it means to be in such a sacred site. So we're really proud of that project. The third project we worked on was called Finding Victor. So again, this came from a project that we also knew was highly successful. We had a pop-up events escape room. So we actually had this tangible escape room that was originally called Unlocking Homelessness. And the intention was to reduce homelessness and create gateways for Indigenous youth to become aware and access supports and resources in the community. The outcome of the project were just so overwhelmingly positive. But how could we make a sort of pop-up event more accessible to larger masses and create some learnings? And then also make it fun and interesting. And so that's how we sort of landed on virtual reality. So we definitely had to make some modifications to the original escape room. So we created a VR escape room story and puzzles to meet the intention of the project. So the intentions became creating gateways, so encouraging youth to ask one person for help. We also had connection and navigation of support. So understanding sort of how to navigate through the world of supports that are available to youth. And then we also did something really clever, which was we took the content created in the VR project and we created an AR connection to our AR app, our USAY AR app. And so that youth that played the game could also access resources and supports through the USAY AR app. And so they had this sort of permanent, tangible ability to access resources that they might have been encouraged to reach out to if they needed to. So we had tons of involvement in this project from Indigenous elders, youth, actors, musicians, and of course, kind of a story that we captured for them. So let's take a look at that trailer.
The whole city is a canvas. I finally finished it. Just like how they used to write on stone. This is my mark. You ever feel like a fire? Like all you can do is burn.
So as you can see, all of three projects have a super different vibe. So after completing these three projects and over a dozen AR projects, USAY has had some challenges, but also amazing opportunities to move forward. What we've learned is that VR and AR is a great way to embed ideas and concepts of oral tradition and authentic storytelling. And there's unique ways to get more Indigenous youth involved in the actual development and process of those experiences. So we've already begun expanding our work and creating new experiences. We have more language projects in the work, escape rooms, trying to tackle social justice issues that are in our community, and creating positive association to identity, and generally just engaging Indigenous youth with technology and building that comfort level. We also want to expand purely positive Indigenous content without the perception of a learning component. So we're looking at, just pure games for the sake of being games without this strong sort of learning or engagement, because we need to shift the narrative beyond, Indigenous youth needing to be fixed, because we fundamentally do not believe that anybody needs to be fixed. So there's this cool idea of sort of creating fun games and interesting projects purely for the sake of enjoyment and fun and interest. I think it's probably important to sort of talk about the challenges that we face in our community in terms of isolated communities, and how we can utilize virtual reality, but also storytelling to ensure that people feel connected to one another and have access to Indigenous content that provides positive narratives of what it means to be a traditional person living in a modern Canadian context. And so that's what we aim to do, is sort of talk about that narrative through the projects that we produce and the stories that we tell. I think it's really important to say that VR is a highly engaging tool, and it's complementary to the services that we have. It's just a gateway to connection. So VR or graphic novels or comics isn't the whole picture. It's not the whole project. It's a component or complementary support to a whole holistic network of services that are needed to provide to our Indigenous youth that we work with, but also to support the community in having authentic conversations about what it means to be Indigenous. As we move forward, we're excited to have people in headsets as we move out of COVID, hopefully, and to get more people involved in content creation and learning through this amazing way of storytelling. So why does it all matter? I think what's really important is we need to move away from truth and reconciliation into living reconciliation. And through living reconciliation, I mean creating sustainable, healthy engagement with technology that provides access and voice, as well as creating decolonized spaces for authentic Indigenous content. This allows non-Indigenous and Indigenous people to have conversations with one another that are meaningful and move us forward to a place where there's actual reconciliation happening. So I think that including Indigenous stories and Indigenous storytelling is very important to the work that we're all doing in the community and the types of stories that we tell. So I look forward to sharing more of our learnings and more about storytelling and the broader impact that we've had with our projects. If you're interested at all, please feel free to contact USAY, and I can give you any more information. Thanks for having me.
Turn right in 200 meters.
Oh no, yeah. Oh no, yeah. Sleepless nights trying to learn how to die in my sleep. 'Cause I don't wanna be the one to wake up without a heartbeat. Trust me, you're gonna love this, stay in your seat. Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit it. It ain't that deep. No, you know I kill for some of your real feelings. Oh no, it ain't that sweet, no. Just as long as you're the one who kills me. 'Cause I don't wanna wake up dead.
Oh my gosh, you're trying to kill me in my sleep. Rough sex making you my enemy. Oh, can I be honest, baby? I kinda like the fact that you kinda crazy. Yeah, you bipolar just like me. That ain't a problem, baby. No.
Hey everyone! Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you're having a good time with us for Comics X Games 2021. We are done for today, but we will be back throughout the week of May 8th to 15th. Check out our website at handaisociety.com for our full schedule and follow us at Hand Eye Society for live updates. See ya!